Hey everyone, welcome back to JSA Vlogs. Today I'm going to tell you everything about student accommodation in UK. So in this one video, I want to cover everything regarding accommodation so you don't have to go and watch another video. From the types of accommodation to how you can save money, I will explain everything in this video. So make sure you watch it till the end and don't miss out any tips. So starting with first, let's talk about the types of accommodation. So there are three major categories of accommodation in UK. First one is university accommodation, second one is student accommodation, and third one is something that you rent. It could be a house or it could be an apartment. The university accommodation, as it's said, will be located on the university campus. So the daily commute to the university will be hassle-free, will be easy, and will save you a lot of money. But when I was doing the research, university accommodations have the highest rent compared to these three categories. The next type of accommodation is student accommodation. Now, student accommodations are somewhat like university accommodations, but they're not affiliated with any university. They are just situated closer to the university, and their structure is exactly like a university accommodation as well. And most of the students prefer the student accommodation because it costs a little bit less than university accommodation, and it's usually not that far from the universities as well. The second reason students prefer going to student accommodation is because the university accommodations are filled up really quickly, which means that most of the students who plan ahead prefer to stay on university campus rather than choosing a student accommodation outside. So if you are interested in living at university accommodation, you should book your accommodation really early, maybe 6 to 8 months early. But if you have lost that window and the university accommodation is full, then you can always go to student accommodation. It is not that different and not that difficult to get. The third and the last accommodation that I'm going to talk about is a private accommodation that you rent out for yourself or with your friends. Usually these accommodations are not closer to the university, but the advantage of them is they do cost less. One of my friends is paying £90 per week in Birmingham, but it usually takes 30 minutes for him to travel from his accommodation to the university. And he has to travel by bus, so he has to add the commute expenses as well. And those are all the types of the accommodations. Now I was thinking about including how do you find accommodations, any kind of accommodation that is listed in this video, but it will be a long video. And if you want that video, please let me know in the comment sections below. I have some tricks and tips for you that you can use to find good accommodations closer to university and at good rates. So let's talk about some advantages and disadvantages of all the three types of accommodations. So as I said in the beginning, university accommodations is basically you live on the campus, you will be never late for your class. And of course, the university gym, the university sports centers are easily accessible for you. Some university accommodations also offer free gym membership in the package. It all depends upon the university, so make sure you read the university accommodation websites. And if I want to talk about any disadvantages of university accommodation, I can think of only one, which is it will keep you in a bubble. So I do have a few friends who are living in student accommodation because they just stay in the campus. They don't go out. It's like they have gotten used to it. It's just everything in one circle. Their university is in it, their accommodation is in it, their gym is in it, and every university has some kind of food store or a Tesco on their campus. So that's it. That's all a student needs for survival, and everything is on the campus. But I know that it's subjective. If you are outgoing and you love to go out, you cannot stay in your room, then it will not affect you. Then you can say there are zero disadvantages of having a university accommodation. Now let's talk about student accommodation. Now I stay in a student accommodation. The first advantage is it costs a little bit less than university accommodation, and I didn't have to book 6 to 8 months earlier. The distance from my accommodation and university is just 5 minutes of walk. Now the main advantage of student accommodation when compared to the apartments or the houses that you rent out is the accessibility. Every company and everyone knows that student accommodation is where most of the students live, and they need a grocery store nearby or a bus stop. So all the people take this into consideration, and we get bus stops and grocery stores right in front of our accommodations. The convenience is pretty high. That is the main reason why I prefer living at student accommodation, and the main reason why I chose student accommodation for me. And if anyone is coming, I always suggest them that you should look for student accommodation. And one thing I've noticed is that student accommodation, even though they're similar to university accommodations, they do not have a lot of rules. Now don't get me wrong, the university accommodations are not like a strict hostel, but when I was having a chat with one of my friends, who lives in a university accommodation, he told me that he cannot order food online after 10 p.m. And that was pretty bad. As I live in a student accommodation, I can order food at 3 at night and nobody will tell me anything. And I put freedom above everything else. So it's kind of a bad impression for me when it comes to university accommodation, but maybe I'm biased. Now let's talk about a disadvantage that I have come across. Now, because I've started a YouTube channel and I'm making videos, I love to gather as much information as I can. I love to chat with other students and get the information from them. So one of the downfall of student accommodation that I've come across is security and management. Some student accommodations do not have a strict security system. The locks may be faulty, the guards are not on time, your online orders and packages are not accepted on time. And if something is wrong in your accommodation and needs to be looked at by a maintenance guy, they won't come out as fast as they should be. They will take a little bit of time. So these kind of management issues could be present in your accommodation. So make sure you read the reviews, you talk to someone who's already living in the accommodation that you want to choose. But do not be scared, this is not the condition of all the accommodations. The accommodation that I stayed in is completely secured. They always check the IDs, and if you bring a guest, you have to sign in no matter what. Now let's move on to the final kind of accommodation, a private apartment or a house. The one thing that I've already said, it is going to be much cheaper when you compare it to the university accommodation or the student accommodation. I know one guy who is paying £60 per week because his rent is pretty low, plus he's sharing it with his friends. But then again, it's not close to the university and he has to travel 30 to 40 minutes every day. Keep that in mind. If you're getting a house, you will have your own backyard. You will feel like you have your own house already. And I think that's pretty good. And of course, there's one big advantage. If you're coming with your close friends, you can rent out a house or an apartment and share it with them and live together while paying less than the other accommodations. The disadvantages of these accommodations is that it is going to be far from the university. You have to pay the water bill, the electricity bill separately. You will have to get your Wi-Fi and pay for that as well. Plus, you need to be in contact with your landlord and also get an insurance for the house. You may have to look at the tenants' agreements and read them carefully. So my suggestion is go for student accommodation, or if you have a chance, the university accommodation. Do not look at the money factor too much and get an accommodation somewhere far from the university that every day you will feel like it's a burden to go to the university. And now it's time for you to give me my experience. So as I said in the beginning, I live in a student accommodation which is just a 5-minute walk from my university, and I'm paying £135 per week. The city center is just a 7 to 9 minute walk. So if I ever feel like going out with my friends to the city center, maybe get a coffee from Tim Hortons, or go to movies, or go shopping, or just take a walk in the city center, I can simply just walk to the city center. Now let me tell you how I got the accommodation. So I was extremely late when it comes to booking the accommodation. So when all of my formalities was done, the time came for me to book the accommodation. I checked online and everything was booked. Literally everything. The only accommodation that were remaining were extremely high in rent, and I didn't want to pay that much of money to my accommodation. So every day I was continuously doing my research, writing a lot of emails to all the agents, reaching out to all the websites such as Amber Student, Uniliving, University Accommodation, and you name it. I was on every website contacting every person. And I'm going to give you an example why I would recommend not for you to get an agent. So let's go back in time to the first week of September. My flight to UK was in second week of September and I had no sign of any accommodation for me. Then suddenly I get a call from one of these websites. They told me that they have found accommodation for me because one of the students have cancelled the booking. And I was extremely happy that I got an accommodation, and the accommodation that he was talking about was the exact accommodation that I stay in right now. So I told him that yes, I'm in for the deal. I was looking for the exact accommodation myself. Then he told me something which made me change my mind. He told me that I have to pay £100 of deposit, £250 of cancellation fees. And I asked him, what cancellation fees? He told me that the accommodation that I'm going to has a zero cost cancellation policy, which means that if I book an accommodation and I cancel it anytime, they will not charge me any money. But the next person who's going to take that accommodation, they will charge that guy. Does it make sense? Absolutely fucking not. And I asked him, wait, are you going to charge me for something that I haven't done? And he said, it's not him, it's the accommodation policy. So he was asking for £350 out of nowhere. I told him that I'm not going to pay the cancellation fees. If you want, I can book the accommodation right now and send you the deposit. He told me that he will call me back in 5 minutes and hang up the phone. So I waited for 5 minutes, and after that he called me back again. He said that he has talked with some kind of manager from the accommodation and they have agreed at £250. That was the time that I realized that this is definitely not from accommodation. It's just their scheme to make extra money on site. And I was stone cold on my words. I told him £100 for the deposit, nothing for the cancellation fee. And at the end, he was ready for £150, but still I did not give him any money. And at the end, he said that he cannot go lower than 150, and I said I cannot go more than 100. It wasn't about £50, but it was about these scammers, and I hate people who lie. I hate people who are scamming international students because we have no idea. We have no idea what these agents are doing. We have no idea what they're doing behind our back. So I took a risk and I booked a hotel for me for 3 days. And the plan was to come here, look for accommodations, and book it myself. And that is exactly what I did. The first day was at the university because I had to do some formalities and collect my VIP card. Oh, and by the way, if you want to know how you can do these things, the first day formalities, please let me know in the comment section below. I would be happy to make that video for you. On the next day in the morning, I got ready and went outside and I started to visit all the accommodations that I could find. And do you know what happened? I went to that accommodation that the guy was selling me and I was shocked. There was no such thing. There was no such policy. I literally told them what has happened with me and they were shocked. They said, why would someone charge you for something that you haven't done? And I was like, I know, right? And you know what the best part was? Everything that the guy told me was absolutely rubbish. Even the deposit fee was not £100, it was £50. So I was pretty lucky. I got the accommodation, which was the last room that they had. And actually somebody did cancel that room. Actually, the same thing happened. Somebody did cancel the room and the room was still available. So I didn't pay any cancellation fees. I just paid £50 deposit and I got my accommodation. And that is how I saved my £300. So please, if you're booking an accommodation, please do research and believe on your information that you've gathered. Talk to the students who are already here. That is the most. And that is it for today, guys. If you want a video on how you can find these accommodations, please let me know in the comment section below. I will be happy to make you the video. If you like the video, please like the video and don't forget to share it with your friends. And on that note, I will end the video right here. I will see you soon in the next one. Until then, be good, be smart, and stay awesome.